Thank you very much for joining us on another Live Action webinar. Today, we're very excited to talk about Live Action's LiveNX 6.0 release of software. My name is David Izumo. I'm a senior technical marketing engineer with Live Action, and I've been with the company for about 7.5 years now, a little over that. And it's been exciting to see all the progression and enhancements that we've been able to do in the software over the course of that time. And again, we're very happy to release Live Action LiveNX version 6.0. So let's get right into the presentation and also the demonstration. So first off, what's new in Live Action LiveNX version 6.0? Well, LiveNX is really a visualization and analytics platform. And as such, we worked very diligently to improve our multi-vendor support. So we added in the capabilities and enhancements to discover devices that don't fully support, for example, the IP address table in the MIB. And these are devices such as the Palo Alto Network firewalls, Viptela vEdge devices, Silver Peak devices, as well as Riverbed. And basically what that means from a LiveNX perspective is that we're now able to get in and allow end users to set the IP addresses per interface. And that really allows you to get that end-to-end visualization of your network topology for your devices. We're going to learn a lot more about this as the presentation moves forward. We also do a lot for Cisco SD-WAN. And SD-WAN is a space that's exploding in the network industry right now. So we added in multi-vendor support for SD-WAN as well for Viptela and Silver Peak. For Cisco IWAN, we definitely continued to march forward on improvements, and that's for better day two troubleshooting. We have a new dashboard for network operation centers, and we added in 2 stories or workflows to better help network engineers understand what's happening within their network. And that's a site-to-site traffic analysis story, as well as a security flow analysis story. We have many improvements as well and bug fixes, a lot of enhancements to our web UI, reporting enhancements as well. We're going to get into that later in the presentation. OVA enhancements, and also introducing a brand new cloud licensing option that really simplifies the licensing for our end users. So let's look further into some new use cases with LiveNX 6.0. First off, we see that there's a lot of different organizations, a lot of our customers are moving toward the cloud, being able to have deploy SaaS as well as public cloud applications. But traditionally, we typically had full visibility into the entire network. It was only a single administrative domain. It was much, much simpler. We had full control over the entire system. But as we move forward with SaaS-based applications, public cloud applications, we now have limited visibility into all these applications and how they're really running. There's multiple administrative domains, and then now we're moving toward hybrid and software-defined wide area networks. So use case number 1 for shadow IT and cloud visibility. What's the situation now? Well, with all these cloud applications that are running in my network, what are those cloud applications? Who deployed various new applications in my network, maybe without me knowing? The solution? Take advantage of Live Action, LiveNX, and LiveUX products to really collect information from the internet edges. This includes firewalls and WAN routers, and be able to get a deeper understanding of exactly what's happening. Use LiveUX to get greater visibility also into the user experience of these applications. Yeah? So collect that data as information is going to the internet from your data centers, your remote sites, or your remote workers, maybe working out of their homes. Take advantage of the application reports that we have. Here's an example of our web UI application to be able to run application level reports. And this is actually directly from our Live Action headquarters in Palo Alto, California. And now we're seeing that all of our users are taking advantage of Salesforce, SharePoint, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Link or Skype for Business, as they're calling it now, and various other types of applications. Get your baseline, understand which applications are really being used as it's going out to the public cloud or SaaS. The next case we'd like to talk about a little bit further is how LiveNX is able to help manage the Viptela SD-WAN environment. And we can help in multiple different ways. In a pre-deployment scenario, to be able to help you pick the pilot sites that are most important, possibly to use in a proof of concept or to deploy the SD-WAN, being able to baseline the network, understand which sites are the most heavily utilized. Also, during deployment, visualize the Viptela Intelligent Path Control. Really understand how your applications are moving from the MPLS network over to the backup internet. And then finally, in day 2 operations for capacity planning, really continuously monitoring the applications from an end user experience perspective. Use case number 3. Sometimes we need to know exactly which end systems in our environment has been compromised, and that could be because of malware. Now, once that system is compromised, you need to understand which other systems did that endpoint actually talk to? Where was it sending data off onto the internet? The assumption is, and it's very obvious, we don't know what we don't know. So how do we get more visibility? Questions that we need to ask are, how do we know what apps are really running in our network? How do I know what the bad apps are? Who has this system been talking to, and how long has it been going on? So what's the solution? What we can do is take advantage of the brand new security flow analysis story. So what do we know? Oftentimes we know the IP address of the end system that might be compromised with the malware. Maybe the domain names of where they're heading off to. Be able to use the security flow analysis workflow or story, enter in the pieces of information that we know, and then we can find out exactly which end systems that particular device was talking to, how long it was talking to, and which path actually that particular conversation went through within the system, and really analyze all the flow conversations in the system using LiveNX. Next, let's dive into the technical aspects of live action LiveNX version 6.0, and let's also do a deeper dive into a show and tell using some demos. So the agenda for this topic is we're going to look into adding multi-vendor devices, kind of step-by-step walk through how that process actually works. We're going to introduce a new not equals flex search and how that can work from the topology view as well as in reports. We're going to also look into reporting enhancements, the site-to-site traffic analysis story. We're going to show you how the new NOC dashboard works and how you can customize the layout. And then finally, we're going to conclude with Cisco IWAN enhancements to really correlate alerts and how that correlates to path changes on the network for your critical applications. And then how we made improvements to focus on end user traffic in a Cisco IWAN environment. So first off, let's talk about adding multi-vendor devices within the LiveNX framework, discovering the devices, and also taking advantage of our IP address override feature. So in this particular instance, what we're doing is we're able to select interfaces, in this case, the SP-LAN and SP-WAN interface, and then apply the IP addresses associated with that interface. And the reason for this is for certain devices, it may not fully support the IP address table within the MIB. And as a result, we need a little bit of manual intervention. Now, we have also another positive that came out of this work, and that's in the cases of Cisco networks and being able to allow for devices with primary and secondary IP addresses on the interfaces. At times in the past, LiveNX will just find one IP address for that interface, and it may not be the one that you want to visualize on the network topology and manage. So in this case, you can go ahead and override that IP address to the primary or the secondary IP address, whichever one you'd like to show visually on the network topology. So let's look further and walk through this process of device discovery for multi-vendor devices. So first off, what we'll do is we'll choose the Discover Devices option under the File drop-down menu. Enter the IP address of the device or the range of the IPs for the devices that you'd like to discover. Set the SNMP credentials and go ahead and press OK. Now, notice that we were able to discover that device. In this case, it's a Silver Peak device. Go ahead and click on the Advanced Add option down below, and then we're going to be able to select the interfaces that we want to manage. Now we're presented with this table view. And if you have multiple devices that you discovered, you're going to see all the devices along with all of the interfaces that were discovered for that particular device. In this case, for the Silver Peak router, the Silver Peak actually provides IP addressing information only for the management interface, for example, and this loopback interface. But it doesn't populate the IP addresses for the primary interfaces for the SP-LAN or the SP-WAN. So in this case, we're going to actually select that SP-LAN and SP-WAN interface, and we're going to manually set up the IP addresses in a later step. Once you add the device, it's there on the network topology for LiveNX. But notice for the SP-WAN interface as well as that SP-LAN interface, there's no subnet clouds that are connecting off of those two interfaces. And as a result, LiveNX wouldn't be able to auto-connect the devices and show you the end-to-end flow visualization. So how do we take care of that now? What we can do is right-click on the device, select Add or Remove Interfaces. You can also go down the path of the Edit Device Settings as well. But in this case, we'll go with the Add and Remove Interfaces option. At this point, we're presented with this screen where we can select the interfaces. It was already pre-selected in the previous table view that we're looking at, but now we want to focus your attention now on the SP-LAN and SP-WAN interfaces in this particular instance. Now, we're going to be able to manually enter the IP addresses. Simply click on the cell, enter the IP address, enter the subnet mask, and click Next. You're going to go through the next two options in the wizard and then complete that wizard for adding and editing the interfaces. Now we're presented with the device on the topology view. The enhancement now allows you to see those subnet clouds connected off to the interfaces, and now end-to-end connectivity is possible. We can get all that flow visualization for you. Here's an example of the flows that we're able to collect directly from that Silver Peak device. And again, end-to-end flow visualization is there in the network topology. In the past, for these types of multi-vendor devices, we needed to add them in to LiveNX as a flow-only device. Basically, we're only going to be able to take in the net flow data. Because of that limitation, we didn't have the option of gathering SNMP statistics. But now, with these enhancements that we did for multi-vendor device discovery, we can also go ahead and read in the SNMP data and provide you information about interface bandwidth directly from that information via the SNMP connections to these devices. Next, let's talk about the flow not equals operator. Now, there's been a lot that we've been able to do in our search capabilities in LiveNX. And I kind of like to think of it like a Google search for NetFlow, or if you're familiar with Wireshark, being able to enter in search commands to identify things like applications, DSCP values, and so forth. With version 6.0, we now give you the option to do a not equals operator in the search bar within the topology view and in reports. These are some of the fields that are supported for the not equals flex filter. And we're going to be adding a lot more of this capability into LiveNX releases to come in the future. So here's an example of removing, for example, the flow.dscp equals EF. Basically saying, show me everything but the EF traffic with that search term flow.dscp bang equals EF. We're going to look a little bit further at another example in our IWAN enhancements, specifically on how we're currently taking advantage of this not equals operator. So let's look further into the reporting enhancements. First off, in 6.0, we're able to save a report as a brand new template. So in this particular instance, perhaps you created a report or you ran a report, in this case an application report, and you set certain settings for yourself, search settings, filter settings, device selections, directionality of the flows. Perhaps you want to focus on either the inbound direction on your WAN interfaces or your outbound direction. Once you customize all these settings, you can save it as a brand new template to be able to use it later. These saved template reports are saved in your own profile. And here's that application report that we just ran and now saved as a template. You can go ahead and share that publicly with other users of LiveNX on your network. You can also go ahead and schedule the report at your leisure by using that little calendar button shown on the screen. The next enhancement is really taking scheduling to the next level. So in the past, we could be able to schedule the reports and it'll pretty much run forever. Now we give you two new options to be able to set an end by date as well as the number of occurrences that you want LiveNX to schedule and run that report. And there's the two options there. In this case, maybe run the report continuously for 5 occurrences, or set that end by date, in this case right there at December 9th. This next section of our discussion, I'd like to focus on the site-to-site traffic analysis story. We're going to be looking at a lot of these things live with a live demonstration. The new dashboard for the NOC as well. And then finally, in this live demo presentation, we're going to look further into the IWAN enhancements and what we did there for Cisco IWAN, Cisco's SD-WAN offering. So let's dive right into that live portion, and let's look into LiveNX and the server that we're running in this demonstration environment. So first off, for the site-to-site traffic analysis story, I want to help you get your bearings as far as what this lab environment looks like. So first off, LiveNX in this scenario is managing multiple sites. There's data center number 1. This is your hub data center, your primary data center, where a lot of your applications are being hosted. There's also a secondary data center number 2 here in the upper right-hand corner. And then there's 3 separate branches, site number 5, site number 4, as well as site number 3. Now, these sites are interconnected by 2 service providers, the MPLS service provider, which is our primary carrier, as well as an internet service provider. Now, all of the traffic flows are being able to be visualized end to end, and that's all the pretty colored lines that you see across the system. You have many different types of DSCP values, applications for voice marked EF, critical applications, in this case, marked AF21. Now, for the new site-to-site traffic analysis story, we're going to be taking advantage of our brand new web UI. So let's bring that up now. When you first log in to the LiveNX web UI, you're going to be presented with this dashboard. We're going to be diving into that in just a little bit, but let's first take a look at the site-to-site analysis story. The way that you get to the site-to-site analysis story is by clicking this button here in the upper left-hand corner, choosing Stories, and then Site-to-Site Analysis. You're then presented with these two chord diagrams, identifying inbound and outbound traffic for your various sites. So in this case, you can move your mouse over these particular chords. In this case, we're looking at Site 5 to Data Center 1 traffic. You can also pin these sites. Perhaps you want to pin Data Center number 1. That's our primary data center, and you want to look at all of the various sites that are communicating directly with data center number 1. So I clicked on data center number 1, and you can do that on either side, either chord, and now we see that traffic is coming into data center 1 from Site 5, Site 4, as well as Site 3. Right? To unselect that data center or to unpin it, just simply click in blank space or go ahead and click on Data Center 1 or that site that you selected already. Now we also have the option of managing filters. The way that you'll do that is click on Manage Filters in the upper right-hand corner. And now you can choose the sites that you'd like to focus on. So maybe if you have many sites, maybe hundreds of sites, you can just type in Data Center number 1, for example. I'm going to choose Data Center 1. Maybe I also want to look at Site 5 as well as Site 4. Now, all of those chord diagrams are going to reconverge around those selected sites. Yeah. So again, we're presented with the utilization chords, inbound and outbound for our various site-to-site communication. You can also choose to look at these chord diagrams by means of bandwidth utilization, site-to-site as well. Now, by mousing over any one of these chords, notice how on the right-hand side, the table converges around that site-to-site communication, giving you, in this case, bandwidth information site-to-site or utilization information site-to-site as well. Now, if you'd like to drill in further and understand all that communication between Site 5 and Data Center number 1 and vice versa, simply click on the chord, and we're going to provide you with a drill down into the applications that are running site-to-site. There's the applications there. In this particular instance, there's a homegrown application, Data Center 1 web server, and many endpoints are communicating back to this particular server hosted in the data center. Mouse over that application and you get additional information on the right-hand table. Now let's drill in further to RTP audio in this case for voice calls that are running in the system. Simply click on RTP audio, and that will further drill down, presenting you with this page to identify exactly what's happening from an RTP audio perspective, all of your voice calls that are running throughout your system, but more importantly, specifically through these various sites. Now, notice that there's some critical alarms, there's some high jitter that's occurring, and that's based off of our performance monitoring capabilities that we have, specifically around voice and video performance. We have information about inbound and outbound characteristics, as well as a whole host of reports for the DSCP values that these RTP audio calls are being marked, inbound as well as outbound, the amount of application bandwidth that we're seeing on the network, as well as the source and destination IP addresses. Likewise, on the right-hand side, we show you the geotopology map and how those RTP audio calls are moving across the system, across your geolocation, in this case, between various aspects of the United States or internationally, if you have sites internationally. So that's the site-to-site traffic analysis story, and we really hope you can take advantage of a lot of these brand new web UI features. Next, we'll go into the NOC dashboard. So again, when you first come in to LiveNX and this new HTML5 web UI, you'll be presented with this dashboard. Now, it's fully customizable as far as how you want to lay out these various widgets. You can simply click in the upper left-hand corner of a widget and drag it across to another location or bring it back and lay out the widgets however you see fit. You can likewise add widgets by clicking on this Add Widget button in the upper right-hand corner. And you're presented with a whole host of various types of reports or widgets that you'd like to add. maybe we'd like to add a top device widget for CPU usage. I'm going to go ahead and click Create, and that will automatically place that widget on the dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and move that down, maybe down on here on the bottom someplace. But you get the idea. Customize the dashboard however you'd like to see fit. If you'd like to also extend the widgets, you can do that as well. So maybe I want this widget just a little bit bigger. You can go ahead and make that change also to focus your attention in the NOC for your operations. Now, another cool aspect of this NOC dashboard is the ability to display this on a full large screen display in your NOC so you can see at a glance the situation or how your network is performing. The way that you'll do that is you'll click on this little button here to open a full screen option. That'll present you with this view really for your network operation centers. If you want it to be completely full screen, just click this button in the upper right-hand corner, and it'll set that NOC dashboard to a full screen view, and then at a glance, you can easily see what the status of your network is. Simply press Escape, and it'll take you back down to the normal view. Now, finally, what I'd like to do is dive into some of our IWAN enhancements that we did, specifically around Cisco's SD-WAN offering. So let's go back to the LiveNX topology, the Java client. So in this case, what we had to do in the past oftentimes is create a filter to hide Cisco IWAN smart probes. Now let me help you understand what those smart probes are. Cisco IWAN uses this technology called smart probes, or very specific types of traffic, to really understand the performance characteristics of the site-to-site communication. Now, these smart probes will take the characteristics of the applications that are running within your environment. So for example, if you have a lot of DSCP EF traffic, or you have a lot of critical applications marked AF21, Cisco SD-WAN will create smart probes that mimic that type of traffic to really understand the performance for jitter, latency, delay, as well as reachability. What we needed to do in the past was create a custom filter to be able to hide those smart probes so you can really focus on user traffic. In this case, we're not hiding the user traffic with our default or the smart probes with our default filter that's shown here at the top. And as a result, we see a lot of EF traffic all over the network. With version 6.0, we allow you to have and choose this hide SD-WAN control filter. Now we're going to remove some of that noise, all that smart probe traffic, and we allow you to focus in on the end user information and all of those conversations. So clearly we now see from data center number 1 to site number 5, we see that a lot of the EF traffic is going over the internet path at this particular instance in time. Whereas from site 5 to site number 4, those voice calls are still going over the MPLS path. Right? So removing the smart probe traffic with this brand new hide SD-WAN control filter allows you to really focus in on your end users and all the conversations that are going on in the network. Now, this is also available in the reports as well as on this topology view, like we're reviewing. Next is an enhancement on the WAN dashboard. We can click on Dashboard in this button in the upper left-hand corner. And now we also provide you with a little checkbox to enable or disable that SD-WAN control filter to really now focus, again, your attention on user traffic. So now we can really see exactly where our users, which service providers our users are taking advantage of for voice calls. In this case, we see that there's many users perhaps using voice on the public internet and also in the MPLS side. What we allow you to do is to be able to drill in on particular sites and reconverge this entire dashboard around those sites. Double click, for example, on the voice application, and we'll present you with these reports here. So in this case, the drill down will now focus your attention on that user traffic, and we're taking advantage of the other enhancement that we talked about earlier, which is the not equals filter or the not equals search term. In this case, we're removing all of those RTP audio smart probes that Cisco SD-WAN uses. Interestingly enough, we created a brand new custom application within LiveNX to really identify all of those smart probes being used by Cisco SD-WAN. And now we see a clear failover, a clear application routing change from the MPLS service provider being shown in yellow to the public internet service provider shown in orange, because we're able to focus our attention on the user traffic, removing the smart probes. Now, if you untoggle this SD-WAN control filter, and we ran that same report, again, we're focusing specifically on data center number 1. If you unchecked that SD-WAN control filter, this is the report that you would be given. We'll still see a little sliver of information running on the network at a particular point in time. Actually, let's go back to that very specific point where that failover happened, and let's see exactly how that looks. So I just altered the timing to look specifically about at that failover, application failover time between the MPLS network and the public internet. If we don't hide that SD-WAN control information, those smart probes, you're going to see still a sliver of data being marked EF, and that's just the nature of smart probes. So take advantage of our new capabilities to hide smart probes using that not equals filter in this WAN dashboard, or also our pre-built filter in our topologies and reports. Focus your attention, see exactly where that those voice calls were moved from one provider to the next, specifically in this particular instance, right around 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, the next Cisco SD-WAN enhancement that we did was being able to correlate alerts with path changes and really identifying those events, those route changes that are occurring within the system. And the way that we did that was enhancing our corrected versus uncorrected reports. Now, in this case, corrected actions or events are really your route changes, where Cisco SD-WAN is able to move that application from one provider to the next if there's a performance problem on the primary service provider. Now, by using this corrected versus uncorrected report, we're able to focus in on all the events, the route changes, those corrected events that occurred. Now, the uncorrected events is when Cisco SD-WAN does not have an exit or a service provider that meets the criteria for the application. Maybe all of the service providers are not performing well. That's really an uncorrected event. Cisco calls that an immitigable event. In LiveNX, we simply call it an uncorrected event. So in this case, we want to look and focus our attention on the route change. You can right-click on corrected, drill down, and choose the corrected analysis report. And in that case, we'll be presented with this report where we're focusing in on the raw data coming from the Cisco SD-WAN process running on these routers. In this case, notice that right around 7 o'clock in the morning, we see some route changes or corrected events that occur for AF21 traffic, as well as EF-marked traffic for voice. The service provider that's having the issue is MPLS in this particular instance. And again, it's happening right there around 7 o'clock in the morning. We can then see that these corrected events, these route changes, completely correlate to exactly what we're seeing in the reports that we ran earlier. Yeah. Right around 7 o'clock in the morning, we definitely see a clear failover for voice traffic from the MPLS network to the public internet. So take advantage of these brand new enhancements that we did for Cisco SD-WAN. And then what we can do is we can also further verify that that traffic is moving across the public internet by going back to the topology view. So go back to the topology view. I'll set a filter specifically for data center number 1 and site number 5. And from 7 o'clock in the morning, we can see that all that voice traffic being marked EF is going over the internet path. So there's a lot in LiveNX version 6.0, and we hope you really enjoy taking advantage of these brand new features to help your end users get the experience that they need. As you're migrating to cloud applications and SaaS-based applications, use LiveNX to really understand exactly what's going on the network, where those applications are going. Take advantage of our brand new security flow analysis story as well, and all the new reporting and web UI enhancements that we have in the product. Thank you very much for your interest in LiveNX, especially in our brand new release of version 6.0. Please reach out to your LiveAction sales reps or email us at sales@liveaction.com. Or visit us at www.liveaction.com. Download a free trial of the LiveNX software. Really, the key takeaways, LiveNX is a network visualization and analytics platform. Allow us to help you manage your network, whether it be Cisco devices or other vendor devices like Viptela, Silver Peak, Riverbed, Palo Alto Networks. Really gain that end-to-end visualization and understanding what's happened. Allow us to help you understand exactly what's happening within your network. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope you have a good rest of your day.